Welcome to the great city of Toronto and the World Cup of Hockey. My name is Authentic Autograph Red. I collect autographs for a living. It's my hobby. I grew up at Maple Leaf Gardens. And I'm making this YouTube video on comments about Phil Kessel and Don Cherry. Phil Kessel makes a tweet and talks about him sitting at home with his dog and he could be doing something else. The guy loves his country. The guy's a great hockey player. And ever since Phil Kessel was drafted into the NHL, every team that he's played for, he's given his heart and soul. The media has always been on him and always given him a hard time. And it's tough for a guy to talk to the media and give him his best because every time he's straight up and honest, the media turns him into a bad guy. Here's a guy who plays hockey, and every year that he plays hockey, he scores nothing but goals. That's his job. He gets paid to put the puck in the net. He doesn't get paid to go in the corners. He doesn't get paid to get hit. Because if he gets hit or goes in the corner and gets hurt, he's no good to any hockey team. And every year, he plays his heart and soul out. Now, Don Cherry, you're a sports commentator. Everybody loves you. You're a legend in Canada. You're a legend in the hockey world. But you're also a legend in your own mind. And sometimes the comments that you say aren't very nice. And I'm here to set the matter straight about you and Phil Kessel. Don, I've known you. I've gotten your autograph here. It says, "To my pal, Red, Don Cherry." I've met you on the street. Here's a McFarlane of you with your autograph. And you've always been nice to your fans and everything else. But I'm a little upset. The things that you say about Phil Kessel. You don't know Phil Kessel. You don't know what goes on in the dressing room. You don't know what the coaches say to him. You don't know what each and every player says. These players that play on hockey teams, they get paid money to play. They don't get paid to do politics. And whatever Phil Kessel does, Phil Kessel does. Whatever Phil Kessel says, says. And whatever you say. But it's not nice what you say about Phil Kessel. The guy's a goal scorer. You knock him and you say him. Have you really had a sit-down interview with him and had a one-on-one? I think you need to set the record straight and see what kind of a guy Phil Kessel is. Phil Kessel, he was playing for Boston. He gets traded to Toronto, the Stanley Cup. He loses out on a Stanley Cup. He comes to Toronto and he plays nothing but hockey. He plays his ass off. He plays his heart out. And he's a great player. You know, I got his hockey helmet that he gave to me, and it's one of my favorite items, and he's one of my favorite hockey players. And he just does nothing but plays hockey. So back to him deserving the Stanley Cup. When the Leafs got rid of him, they got rid of one of their good players. You need three players to equal Phil Kessel, because there's not too many players in the league that can come into the league and score 20 goals a year, you know? And that's hard to do. So we get rid of him, and he goes to Pittsburgh. He does nothing but good for Pittsburgh. He plays in. They make the playoffs. He plays good. He gets most of the goals, most of the points. And the last game, he might have been the MVP, and he tried his ass off to get a point. If he would have got a point, in my opinion, Don Cherry, he might have been the MVP, but Sidney Crosby, the guy that he is, the greatest hockey player known the sport right now, he got the MVP because he deserved it, and he stood up and he come up, and Phil tried his ass off. But back to you, Don. You're like Muhammad Ali. You're on the ropes doing the rope-a-dope, and you know when to come in and when to come out and talk about a player. So my comments to you in this video to you, Don Cherry, is we're getting tired of you. This might be your last year doing Hockey Night in Canada, and I think the ratings are going to be down because you just talk a lot of garbage, a lot of things, and sometimes you piss people off, and you piss me off. Phil Kessel, I know what kind of guy you are. You're a good guy. Every time I've walked up, I've gotten an autograph, and it shows the city of Toronto how good of a guy you are. You win the Stanley Cup. You didn't tell the media that you're coming to Toronto because the media would have been all over you. What are you doing, this and that, and asking questions, and not asking the purpose that you were here. You took the cup to the sick kids' hospital. No one knew. Press wasn't allowed in. The smiles on these kids' faces were priceless, and everything else. When you go to a hockey game now, in 2015, and this year in 16 and 17, nothing but good. You go to a hockey game, you see little kids wearing Phil Kessels. I go to hockey games, and I pay to hockey games, and every time I go, I see more Phil Kessel shirts in the seats outside the arena and little kids wearing them. And that shows you how much we love you, Phil, in the city of Toronto. And keep doing what you're doing, Phil. I'm your biggest fan. I'm putting this on YouTube, and you do not deserve the rap that you get from the media because they don't know who you are. You're an individual person. You're a private person. You don't like to talk a lot. And if people can't accept you for who you are, well, too bad, because that's the kind of person you are. And if someone wants to be private, he should be private. Because you know what? When Phil Kessel was in Toronto and he was on his game, the press was behind him. When Phil Kessel wasn't doing good, the media was on him. And I don't blame you one bit. And now back to Don Cherry. Another thing's a little tiring. Every time you're on Hockey Night in Canada, you talk about how good you are, how the things that you did. You always talk about Bobby Orr and how good he was. Well, I know one thing. I've met Bobby Orr 3 or 4 times on the street. I've asked him for his autograph. He's never given it to me once. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but a lot of people can tell you if they've asked him for his autograph when he's on the street, he's never given it to you. He's too busy. I'm an autograph hound. I've met many players. I can tell you about a whole bunch of auto players.